Hello and welcome to another Stellarian Games video. Recently, for my son's campaign, he needed an elemental temple that his adventurers could go to, something that existed on sort of a different plane of existence. One that the players would use a portal to reach and then a portal to return, but he wanted a temple that could be used in a variety of different environments. So this temple couldn't be themed overall as one element. It needed to be something a little bit more generic that he could be able to be repurposed in different environments. So this is the temple that we came up with, this and an outer ring and some other various components. But these could be used in a number of different environments. They're just a stone building. They have some markings on them, but they aren't really related to any particular element or anything like that. And so we made some customized discs that could be used as part of the elemental temple. And these are more of the themed elemental components that would go along with the temple. So that's the idea of this temple, is something that could be repurposed, used in a variety of different environments, and specifically designed to be used with the Ultimate Dungeon Terrain circles that we have, and those circles are really more of the elemental components as well. So let's go to the table and see how this one is done.
Okay, to start this craft, we're going to put a piece of blue masking tape in the middle of a styrofoam board, and then measuring edge to edge, I'll get the center. I'll poke that onto a circle jig and take it to the hot wire cutter and cut out a very large circle. This will be the outer ring of the elemental temple. And then we cut into that outer ring to make the hollow part of that ring. And we'll end up joining that cut a little bit later on. And removing that and cutting yet further in to make the ring for the top of the inner building. Now I'm using a ballpoint pen and using my finger to guide along the edge, creating a line both on the outside and inside to kind of frame up the stonework that I'll draw on. I'm just drawing on some angular stonework. I didn't want this to look too natural. I wanted it to have sort of an irregular angular shape. Now I'm measuring on the top of that inner building where I want the archways to be placed in. Tracing those on and then using a knife to cut into the arches and just shave off a little bit to create some recesses. I'm using some cheap foam core, marking out some small squares that I'm going to use to make the hexagon shape of the inner temple. Peel off all of the paper from one side and then just roughly create a beveled edge on each one so that when I glue it together as a hexagon or an octagon, it will join together fairly well. It doesn't have to be perfect. On one of them, I'm cutting the doorway into it and adding the stonework, and then adding stonework to all of the other pieces as well. Now I created a simple jig with a right angle tool. I'm gluing the pieces together with that jig. So that there's the two sides are on a 90-degree and the one is a 45 in between. So just adding piece after piece with some hot glue. And then joining the two pieces together. Now I traced that onto some 3/4 inch styrofoam again, and I'm cutting this out. This will be the base of the temple. Using an X-Acto knife, I'm tracing where the boards would hit the base, and then partway down cutting that off so it has a little stepped recess that the temple will sit down onto. Now adding some decoration to the door. And the stonework to the base of the temple as well. Just using a circle pattern and then filling it in with those irregular stones again. Now I'm using hot glue to attach it to the circular top. I wanted it to sit down onto the base and be open for playability reasons. And then gluing on the door recessed a little bit from the outer stones. Now I'm starting to work on the stairway structure that leads up to the top of the temple. Just trace this onto 1-inch XPS and cutting it out on the hot wire cutter. Doing the stonework on all of the stairs. And this is the little bridge over to the temple from the larger arc. And then hot gluing the side stairs to that main staircase. And filling in the detail in between. Now we're going to join that outer ring so that it doesn't have that gap. Just traced out a small little section of XPS, cut it out, and then hot gluing that little square in place, and that will create a nice firm join. Now I have a circle tubular section of XPS that I'm just cutting into small discs. These will be used as the themed elemental pieces. I found some clip art online and I'm just freehanding something similar onto each of those discs. Now we're painting this with the black paint and Mod Podge as the base coat. And then doing a dry brush with gray. And this looked pretty good with the dry brushed gray. I didn't bother with any brown undertones or anything. I wanted it to be a fairly clean gray stonework. I could have left it with the gray, but I decided to add a little bit more of a zest to it, I guess, with some white paint and coated the outer ring with white, and I think that really made the piece pop a little bit more than just having the gray stones. For the discs, I'm using some cheap silver paint for the kind of the bulk of the background of these. And then I switched to a nicer metallics for the detail work. Some coppers, some blued steel, other colors just to add some different flavors to the elemental components. Once those were dry, I came along with a black wash and filled in a lot of the details just to add some contrast to them. With all of the metallics kind of blending together, it lost a lot of the nice contrast in the crevices where I inked them, and just coming back in with this dark black wash to add that contrast back in. I'm using some straight black ink now and doing the same thing with some of the details on the temple itself. This extra little bit of black really makes the lines a lot cleaner. Coming along with black paint now and adding just a few touches to the symbol pieces and then painting the sides black so that they have a nice finish. So here's the finished product. The temple has all of these elements that can be kind of moved around, shifted, and that was intentional for different challenges that the players might have to face. So I hope you like this video. If you do, please hit the like button and subscribe, and we'll see you again next time. Thank you.